how's it going? Welcome to the show. Hope you guys have saved some room in that gas tank because it's time to go one more round with Rob. Here today, I'm going to be breaking down the first fight card, if you will, for the Professional Fighters League third season in existence here. So the Professional Fighters League, I guess it's not brand new. Well, it's brand new under this name. The Professional Fighters League, the PFL, used to be the WSOF, which was the World Series of Fighting organization. They kind of rebranded, restructured how they did things, which I'm going to get into in a second here. And now they're out as the PFL. And, so their first two seasons, or first 2 years of existence, were, they were good. They had good fighters. They didn't really have a lot of name draw to them. This season, they've added a lot of name draw to them. They've signed Anthony Showtime Pettis, Rory the Red King McDonald, Fabricio Verdum. They've signed a couple of big names, so I think it'll definitely be more interesting and definitely have a bigger draw to it this year. So before I get into the structure, though, so the Professional Fighters League, at the top of their show this past Friday, which would have been the 23rd of April, announced that they were doing a fighter performance rating for every fighter, every round of the fight. So instead of it being the normal 10-point must system like we've seen in boxing and MMA so far, it would be scored, each round would be scored 0 to 100, 100 being a finish in the round, whether it be submission, TKO, knockout, whatever it may be. And then anywhere in between there would be based on how dominant the fighter was. So it'd be based on the impact of actions. So essentially how much damage is caused, or the impact of the actions the fighter takes on the round on his opponent or her opponent. I think it's a good idea. I think we're definitely going to see some bugs come up. Their argument was this takes the subjective matter out of it, which I don't necessarily agree with 100%, because, if I land a good hard punch on somebody and drop them, and then I go to jump on top of them, but then they sweep and they reverse me and they nearly get a finish with a rear naked choke, or even if I just jump on them and they get me locked in a triangle, how are you going to balance that? Because that could be two near ending fight sequences there. How do you balance that out? We didn't see that really at all on this card, but I'm interested to see how that plays out. So it might have some little hiccups in there. We might revisit that more deeply in a future episode. But also, to get to the question that I know some of you guys that follow me on Instagram and Facebook were probably scratching their head about, is in the post. I said this was the headline bout was Anthony Showtime Pettis versus Cassius Clay Collard in a lightweight tournament qualifier bout. All three fights that I got for you guys today are all going to be tournament qualifier bouts of various weight classes. So the way, and I told you guys I would get to this at the top of the show, which I'm going to do right now. So the way the PFL works, Professional Fighters League, I'm just going to call it PFL from now, guys. The way that it works is they have 6 different weight divisions. They have the men's featherweight, men's lightweight, men's welterweight, men's middleweight, men's light heavyweight, men's heavyweight, and then they have women's lightweight. So the women's lightweight is the only division they have right now for the women. I'm sure in the future they're going to get women's featherweight, possibly women's bantamweight. I'm sure they're going to try to incorporate more of that into the organization. Each division has 10 fighters in it that'll be looking to pursue a tournament berth, so to speak. So that's not the only 10 fighters they have in each division, but for the purpose of this, they have 6 weight divisions, 10 fighters in each. Each fighter has 2 qualifying bouts. So they have 2 qualifier fights to earn points. So with that, a win will give you 3 points. A win if it's just a decision, gives you 3 points. A loss gives you no points. If you miss weight, or I'm sure if you have some other kind of misconduct coming into the fight, you're actually not eligible for any points. You actually get docked at least 1 point. We saw this past Friday. One of the lightweight tournament competitors, I believe it was either lightweight or featherweight. I believe it was lightweight though. Missed weight, so he won his fight, but I believe he won his fight. I don't remember off the top of my head, but he actually didn't earn any points. He actually had a -1 point in the standing, so he's practically out of the tournament at this point. So they do a really good job of emphasizing, hey, you need to make weight. And with this next part, they emphasize, hey, you guys should go for finishes in these fights. Because if you get a finish in the first round, you get an extra 3 points on top of the 3 points you get for the win. If you get a finish in the second round, you get an extra 2 on top of that 3 for the win. And then if you finish it in the third, you get an extra 1 point on top of that 3 points you get for the win. So they really emphasize, hey, you got to make weight and you got to go for finishes in these fights. And these fights end up being very entertaining because of that. Because guys know that this is what's expected of them. So the top 4 fighters after those 2 fights in each division, they advance to the division tournament or playoffs, as the PFL calls them. So in that structure, the number 1 guy, the guy that has the most points, will face the number 4 guy. The number 2 guy will face the number 3 guy. It's kind of normal seeding for a tournament would go. Those 4 fighters will fight in a semifinal in their semifinal bouts, number 1 versus number 4, number 2 versus number 3. Winner of those bouts will go to the championship round bout, and they'll fight for the PFL championship for that year, and they'll also be fighting for $1 million on top of that belt. So big stakes to get to the championship round there. They do get paid throughout the tournament. I'm not saying that $1 million paycheck is their one paycheck for the year. It's not. They do get paid for each bout, but they get paid for that championship bout, and then they get that $1 million on top of it. So that's a little something for them too. Like I said earlier, the PFL does have fighters outside of those 10 fighters in each weight division. Claressa Shields, who most notably is 2-time Olympic gold medalist, multiple time world champion in boxing, is coming over to the PFL to try her hand at MMA. So she's one of those fighters that will not be in the tournament, but she will have a fight later this year. I believe it is in June. So they do have other fights that don't have an impact on the tournament standings, but most of their fights are that tournament structure. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the fights here. First fight I got for you guys was the first fight on the main card. It was Lance Palmer versus Bubba Badman Jenkins. I believe Bubba Jenkins was coming over from Bellator. I could be wrong on that, but I know I've seen him fight before, and I believe it was Bellator that I saw him in. This was the featherweight tournament qualifier bout. Guys, this is really exciting. So Lance Palmer was the reigning 2-time PFL featherweight champion. He is not lost in the PFL at all. These two were also rivals in college as they wrestled in the same weight division there. And Bubba Jenkins actually beat Palmer in college when they met. So these guys know each other very well coming into this bout. It was going to be very interesting to see if we were going to see kind of a run back of how they competed against each other in college, if we were just going to get a 5-star grappling match, or if we were just going to get some stand-up, drag-out brawl. So let's get into it. So round 1, Jenkins comes out and he opens up with 1 or 2 jabs. Palmer answers him with a calf kick. So Jenkins kind of trying to throw out that jab. Palmer really trying to throw out that calf kick. Trying to, get Jenkins off his game, honestly. Try to really wear down that front leg of Jenkins. Palmer was a wrestler himself. I think it's a very smart move to do. This is very effective against wrestlers. You can't push off that front leg. You have a very hard time shooting in to get a takedown. Seems pretty simple, pretty straightforward to me. So through the first minute, Jenkins actually has the middle of the cage control. So he's really standing in the middle of the cage. Palmer's really moving more on the outside. There's not really a whole lot of action in that first minute. That the structure of how they stand, guys, kind of flows throughout the fight, which I thought was really interesting. It wasn't really a way that we had seen Palmer Palmer compete before like that, especially in or at least especially in a mixed martial arts venue. Jenkins gets the first takedown of the bout with about 2:20 left in the round. This is really kind of one of the biggest things, and he just locks a body lock onto Palmer and does really well with controlling him. He actually hits Palmer with a belly-to-back suplex at one point as well, and is able to hold Palmer down for a good portion of time. Palmer gets back to his feet, excuse me, guys, with about 15 seconds left in the round. He does land a couple of good strikes, but I think Jenkins took the round. Guys, here I'm not going to give you guys scores for this because at the time while I was watching this, I thought the judges were going to go by that performance rating scoring that I told you guys of the 0 to 100, and I wanted to get a feel of how they were going to do it. So I didn't record any scores for that, but I did think Jenkins took the round. Round 2, Palmer comes out, and he comes out with a couple of quick strikes. So I think he kind of saw how Jenkins came out with those couple of quick jabs, and he was like, hey, let me give it a shot. Let me try to at least get him kind of off his game. Jenkins lands a hard left hand to answer back, though. A hard left hand. It doesn't drop Palmer, but it definitely got Palmer's attention. Palmer definitely didn't want to... he didn't want to feel that again. He really didn't. He didn't want to run that one back. Not at all. So the first minute, pretty much, the same as same positioning as round 1, guys. So Palmer's kind of circling on the outside. Jenkins is keeping himself on the inside. Jenkins initiates the grappling again this round, and this time it's with a little over 3 minutes left in the round. And he doesn't really get a takedown, but he presses Palmer up against the cage. He's leaning on him, and that's tiring work, guys. You got a guy pressing you on the cage and just leaning on you. It burns your lungs like crazy. So he's pressing on Palmer. Jenkins lands a couple of knees to the hamstrings of Palmer at one point with about 2 minutes left in the round, and those are honestly, I think those are the worst knees to take. Because, you can get hit in the stomach. Yeah, you can get hit in the face. You get hit in the face, you get knocked out. Oh, that's pretty bad because you lose the bout. You're unconscious. You get knocked out, brain trauma, all that stuff. You get kneed in the hamstrings, though. You don't want to do anything, guys. Anything. Trust me. You get kneed in the hamstrings a couple of times, a couple of really good times, and it will literally knot your hamstrings up to where you don't want to move. So Jenkins, really good idea, especially knowing Palmer is a high-level wrestler as he is himself. Really started targeting those hamstrings. Like I said, with about 2 minutes left in the round. So Palmer's got at least 2 minutes in this round, maybe, if he gets through it, that he's got to deal with that knot in the hamstrings there. Palmer does try to reverse it, and he does get a takedown on Jenkins. But Jenkins, he just kind of throws him off. He really does. He just kind of throws them off, and, they get back up. And the last minute just saw both men striking, with Jenkins going first most of the time, and I think landing better most of the times because he was going first. But both men really kind of, they started to open up a little bit more in that last minute. So that was a really exciting end of round 2. Again, I thought Jenkins again won the round. Because of his ability to control Palmer on the cage there. Round 3, Palmer starts off quick with strikes again. They're not very effective, though. Like he doesn't. If he lands, they're not very hard. Jenkins is kind of slipping and sliding a little bit there. And then some of the other ones, Jenkins is just able to avoid altogether. So not very effective. Palmer's still content with circling the outside. Doesn't really initiate much action, which is really surprising because as far as everyone was concerned, he was down 2 rounds, and it's like, hey man, you got to get going. Like you're the reigning 2-time champion. You just lost the first 2 rounds that we've seen you lose really in the PFL. You got to do something. Like if you want to keep that unbeaten streak going, which I know for some fighters is not a big deal, and sometimes losing that unbeaten streak is kind of a weight off their shoulders. But it's like, look, man, if you want to get going, you want another shot at this tournament, like you got to get some points here because guys are going to get finishes, and that's going to put you on the outside looking in. Jenkins again initiates the grappling, presses Palmer up against the cage. with a little over 3 minutes left in the round. Sorry, guys, had something in my eye. A little over three minutes left in the round. Jenkins gets another takedown with about 2:45 left in the round. You know, he's right back to using that body lock that he was using in the first round, and in the second round, really too. You know, he was just able to control Palmer with it. Palmer does get a front headlock on Jenkins, but he's not really able to get Jenkins. He's not really able to get to Jenkins' back. Excuse me. He ends up just kind of holding him there. He does kind of try to transition it to like a guillotine Darce choke kind of situation. He doesn't get it though. In the last the last 30 seconds, the two just get up. They finish the round striking much like they did in the first round there, the second. Actually, both of the first two rounds. You know, so they end the round with some striking there. And that's really that was the fight, guys. I mean, it was really just Jenkins controlling Palmer for 95% of it. I thought Jenkins won round 3 as well. I had him up 3 rounds to none. Like I said, I didn't score the rounds because I was interested to see whether the judges were going to do this performance rating scoring or if it was going to be another 10-point must system, which it ended up being a 10-point must system. So, because as the winners were announced, Bubba Jenkins won the fight by unanimous decision, 30-27 on all 3 scorecards. I'm going to have to take a little bit of a deeper dive into this performance rating thing for you guys because I really thought that the scorecards were not going to be read like that. I'll take a deeper dive in for you and give you guys a rundown of that when I completely figure it out. So, with the end of the fight, Jenkins gets 3 points, Palmer no points. Jenkins seems to have Palmer's number here. He beat him in college, beat him again on Friday night, seems to have his number. And I just think Palmer wasn't aggressive enough, you know, and he seemed more defensive in this fight than he has in previous fights that I've seen, especially with his wrestling. And I think that may also have to do a little bit with Jenkins beating him in college. I'm not saying that was everything. I'm not saying he's like, man, I don't want to wrestle this guy because he's better than me. I don't think that was Palmer's mindset at all. But I do think that may have played a role. I do. Either way, it's hard to see Palmer getting into the tournament here, guys, which is unfortunate. But we'll see. Crazier things have happened. So, next up, second fight sees another reigning 2-time PFL champion. This time in the lightweight division, Nathan Schultz, versus Marcin Held. Nathan Schultz is the reigning 2-time PFL lightweight champion. This is a lightweight tournament qualifier bout, and you know, so again, this is another 2-time reigning champ. So let's see what's what. Round 1, both men open up with striking and land a few good shots on each other. They both kind of stung each other there in the first initial exchange. Schultz starts throwing some calf kicks really early in the round, which I thought was a good game plan. Held lands well with his hooks, though. Held really found a home for his hooks almost immediately in the fight. Like he was really, whether it was his left hook or his right hook, he was really starting to land well. And you could tell because within the first 2 minutes, the nose area, like kind of in this area of Nathan Schultz, so around the nose and kind of a little bit of the eye area, Nathan Schultz area there just started getting really red. You could tell it was turning pink. Held was landing well to that area then, which, you know, you're like, oh, this could be a rough night for him. Schultz initiates some grappling pressure, though, having Held up against the cage just under the halfway point, so just under 2:30 left in the round. Held is able to turn the position around at one point, pressing Schultz up against the cage, and the two kind of get jockey a little bit back and forth for the position there before they briefly separate. When before Schultz gets held up against the cage again, that was kind of a better portion of the second half of this round there. Held does land some strikes as this time that Schultz has him up against the cage, the second time that is. And it just, that was kind of where the round ended. I believe they separated a little bit at one point and they had some more striking, but I definitely think Held took the round. I think he had the better striking, and in my opinion, Schultz didn't do enough while he had him pressed up against the cage, but he didn't really do anything but hold him when he had the grappling control, when he had him up against the cage there, and Held actually threw some strikes when he when he was pressed up against the cage by Schultz. He was trying to strike and get his way out of it. So that to me was enough to give Held the round. Round two, Schultz comes out and he opens up with a front kick, which doesn't really do anything major. It lands, but doesn't really do anything major. I just thought it was interesting that he comes out and opens up with a front kick. We don't really see that much. We don't really see the front kick that much at all in MMA. Held gets back to his striking. Held does seem tired to start the round. He's definitely taking some deep breaths when the two break apart from either a striking exchange or a brief grappling exchange. And so he does seem tired this round, which could make it more difficult for him moving forward in the fight. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Schultz moving forward a lot more to start this round. I think he understands that Held is tired, so he's really starting to press him more. He's doing better with his striking through the first 2 minutes of the round. I think part of it was because Held looked tired, and he may have been tired. But also through that first half of the round, Held was still landing some good hooks and uppercuts, and the two seemed to be trading hooks and uppercuts back and forth in the first half of the round. In the later part of the round, Held is backing up more. Held is backing up more throughout the round, but especially in the later part of the round. So definitely lending to the fact that he's tired in this round. He does get a brief takedown though, with about a minute and a half left. Held, that is, gets the brief takedown. But Schultz gets some grappling control. He gets up. He gets some grappling control against the cage, pressing Held up against it. And that's where the round ends, is Schultz just pressing Held up against the cage. Schultz took this round. He had the better pressure. He had the better striking. I think he controlled better with the grappling. Like I said, Held got the takedown, but Schultz kind of reversed him or escaped. Had him pressed up against the cage, and Held really didn't have an answer for that. So I gave Schultz the round. Round three. Schultz opens up, moving forward again. He's trying to apply that pressure again, which is really smart. It worked for him in the second round. Probably is going to work in this third round. Both men start exchanging shots again, as they did kind of through the early portion of that second round as well. Schultz finding early success with his hooks and uppercuts. So Held had that success in the first round. They both kind of traded them in the second round, and now Schultz is kind of taking over with it here in the third round. Schultz also lands a good couple of right body kicks, right side body kicks, where you can see on Held's left side of his body. So since Schultz was throwing his right kick, it was landing on Held's left side. And you can see that the left side of his body is noticeably red at that point after he threw a couple of hard kicks there. Schultz, like I said, definitely moving forward and pressing Held a lot more in this round, and he's having success landing in part because of it. Held is able to answer back, when Schultz throws, but I think Schultz's shots definitely have more pop on them. I think they definitely had more sting in them. And the two end the round exchanging. They end the round going back and forth there. I think Schultz took the round, and I think it was his best round. Like I said, he was moving forward and pressing more. He was, having better success with his striking. Held was able to answer, but I think there's got to be something to say for somebody going first. I really do. So I gave Schultz the round. We go to the scorecards. It is a unanimous decision win for 29-28 on all three scorecards for Marcin Held, which I was really surprised when I heard that read off. I thought that Schultz did enough in round 2 and 3 to get the bout. I guess round 1, I would assume round 1 went to Held because that seemed like his best round. And I guess the judges gave him round 2 as well. I guess they thought he did just enough in round 2 to win it. I think round 3 was definitely Schultz round. I don't know how you could score it for Held. So I guess round 2 ended up being that swing round, and all three judges just saw it the opposite I did. It is what it is. Held gets 3 points for the win. Schultz gets none for the loss. And like I said, Held must have gotten rounds 1 and 2, which I can see. I just thought Schultz did enough in round 2 to get it, and definitely round 3 for the win. This makes these two fights, this makes back-to-back champions in the PFL that hadn't seen a loss in the PFL 0-2 to start this year's tournament. So you got back-to-back champions 0-2 to start this year's tournament. You got back-to-back champions having their first losses in the PFL. This was a crazy night to start the tournament. I think it's definitely going to make some better ratings coming into these next shows. I think this is what they needed, honestly, to kind of get that boost to the next level. Final fight of the night, Anthony Showtime Pettis versus Cassius Clay Collard in a lightweight tournament qualifier bout. This is Anthony Pettis' PFL debut. He's the former WEC lightweight champion, former UFC lightweight champion. He's fought at featherweight. He's fought up at welterweight. He definitely says that lightweight is his home, making this his home. He's making his stand, saying I'm a lightweight. This is my home. Collard, this is going to be his first MMA bout in about 2 years. Now, he did last year have a good, I think they said 5 boxing bouts last year. So he did have some good, a good amount of competition experience last year. Not in MMA, though. Could play a factor. Let's see what happened. Round 1, Pettis opens up light on his feet. Collard in more of a solid stance. This isn't a surprise that Pettis comes out light on his feet. That's kind of his MO, no matter what weight class he was fighting in. And the two start exchanging almost immediately. Both men getting off to a quick start with their striking. It was really great to see, especially for a main event coming into their first event after the PFL didn't have any events last year because of COVID. So to see these two guys come out in the main event and really start going right away was amazing to see. And again, I think that's something that the PFL needed. I think this will definitely give them a little boost in their stock, so to speak. Collard is pressing Pettis early and targeting his body. So Pettis being pressed is really something that I think guys have seen that Pettis doesn't necessarily answer well to. So Collard gets right onto that game plan. He's like, hey, let's press him. Let's see what happens. Pettis tries a cartwheel kick, which was pretty... Doesn't really land though. May have glanced him on the top of the head. But he ends up on the ground because of it. And Collard just starts chopping at his legs. He's just throwing leg kicks. Bang, bang, bang. Right to Pettis' legs. Which is a really good game plan. Keep Pettis from being able to move around us so much. Keep him in one spot. He's a little easier to hit. Once Pettis gets up, Collard goes right to pressing Pettis up against the cage. And this causes, I'm sorry, he doesn't press him up against the cage, so to speak, as in like what they were grappling. He's pressing him back against the cage, like moving forward on him, guys. Let me clarify that. Because at this point, Pettis slips. He's trying to answer back to Collard's throws. He tries to answer back. I think he went to try to throw a knee, and he slips. while he's trying to answer back. Collard doesn't really jump on it. There's not really a ground grappling exchange there, but it's important to note that he was putting so much pressure on Pettis that Pettis just, I don't think he was able to plant his feet as well as he wanted to throw that knee. Ends up slipping because of it, and that's because of the pressure of Collard. Pettis is able to get some good solid punches to land throughout the round. They're just not as often as Collard is able to land in this round. Pettis does find late success with his front kicks, though, especially to the body. So that could be an avenue he could take. Collard takes the round, though. Collard did a lot more of the aggressive pressing. I think he had the better striking throughout the round. I think Pettis needs to kind of keep going with those front kicks to the body because they were landing really well. And that could be his path to success. So round 2, Pettis comes out. He starts targeting the calf of Collard with calf kicks, which is, not the front kicks that I thought Duke Rufus, who's his trainer, not the game plan I thought Duke Rufus was going to go with. I thought Duke was going to see like, hey, those front kicks are working, let's stay on them. Going to the calf kicks, not a bad idea either, though, with as much as Collard was pressing him. Collard starts pressing him again, though, that being said, and, it kind of makes it a little harder for Pettis to land those calf kicks while this guy is moving in on him. They're both exchanging. They're both having success. Pettis a little more success in this round than the last round. So they're really going after it. Collard lands a good right hook to the body, though, that drops Pettis. Pettis was in trouble here, guys. He got dropped. Like I said, he got dropped with that right hook, and he's just able to fend off Collard. But Collard gets right back in his face, and he gets right back to pressing. Pettis, and he drops him again with another body shot because of this, and he starts landing some good ground and pound. Pettis is trying to get control of Collard on the ground at this point. He's trying. Collard just powers him off, though. Literally just powers him off. And because of that, Pettis tries to answer with some strikes at the end of the round. He does get a good 1-2 in, but Collard definitely takes the round. I think it was quite obvious. He dropped Pettis twice with a body shot. I would have scored that round a 10-8 if it were me, to be completely honest, because he dropped Pettis twice there. So Collard took the round. Pettis needs to finish in this round. I think it's clear as that. I think it's as clear as Lance Palmer needing a finish against Bubba Jenkins in their fight. So let's see. So round 3, Pettis comes out. He opens up some kicks. I think he did open up with a couple of front kicks to the body there again. Like I said, I thought that should have been his game plan throughout round 2 as well. But I guess the fight camp there didn't agree. Collard opens up trying to attack the body. Very smart, since he hurt Pettis twice to the body in that last round. Was able to kind of put him on the mat because of it. Pettis is able to apply some pressure, though, to Collard to start the round. Really, trying to put Collard on his back foot. Pettis throws a kick at one point that Collard is able to catch, and then he uses that to sweep Pettis' base leg out from under him. And that was something that was really of note in this round, because it was like, if he can do that, like this might be a little bit of a harder round for Collard to kind of cruise through, so to speak. Collard's able to pressure Pettis more like he did in the first 2 rounds, kind of during the second half of this round. But that leads to a good head kick that lands for Pettis. He does throw a flying knee that doesn't really make contact, or if it did, I think it made very minimal contact. But that's with just over a minute left in the round. Pettis ends up getting some top control off of this because Collard goes down. He dropped Collard with the head kick. If the flying knee, like I said, if the flying knee landed, I don't think it landed as well as the head kick. It may have landed, just not as well as the head kick. At least I don't think it did. So because of that, Pettis gets top control, starts pressing on Collard. Collard gets back to back up to his feet, tries to press back against Pettis just before the bell. He sweeps Pettis' base leg again as Pettis is trying to one more head kick, sweeps that base leg out from under him. While Pettis was on the ground with him there, I do want to mention this after that head kick and flying knee. He is able to land a little bit of ground and pound, but like I said, Collard is able to get back up, and the two kind of start jockeying for who's going to press who. I think Collard got a little bit of the better of that. So I think this is Pettis' best round of the fight. I think, he won the round. I'm not sure it's enough to get him the fight, though. So we go to the judges' scorecards. It's a unanimous decision win for Cassius Clay Collard. He got scored 29-27 on 2 scorecards, and then 29-28 on the third. So I guess that last judge had it at 10-10 round in round 3, which I don't agree with. I think it should have been 10-9 for Pettis. I think all 3 scorecards should have been 29-27, if not 29-26. Like I said, I would have scored round 2 10-8 for Collard, but it is what it is. So Collard gets 3 points for his win, Pettis nothing for the loss. Collard was just able to apply a ton of pressure to Pettis, and Pettis just didn't have an answer for it. And like I said before, historically throughout his career, he hasn't done well with guys that pressured him. Pettis, that is. So I think it was a great performance by Collard. Pettis just couldn't get himself going. I don't know if that was new promotion jitters or what, but he couldn't get himself going. And it seems to be more of an issue for Pettis in the later portion of his career, I've noticed. I hope I don't know if it's just guys figuring out that he doesn't do well if he's pressured, or if it's starting to be a downward trend on his career. I hope it's not the second part. I hope it's the first thing, and I hope he's able to game plan against those guys better. I guess only time will tell, to be honest, and especially if he's going to be able to figure out a game plan for when those guys are pressuring him. I hope this isn't a downward trend for him. He's a really exciting fighter, guys. He actually trained in the same martial arts organization that I did for a while, so I've followed this guy's career for a good portion of it, and I hope this, like I said, I hope this isn't the downward trend. He's still an exciting fighter. I think he can still be a very high-level fighter. I just think he needs to figure out how to keep those guys who are pressing him from pressing him. So there it is, guys. Those are the 3 fights I did for you guys for this card. I didn't do a 4th fight because I wanted to give you guys that rundown on the fighter performance rating and the tournament style that the PFL has incorporated, or as they call it, the sport season. They say that they're the only MMA organization with a true sport format with a regular season, playoffs, and championship, which I guess, yes, is technically correct. Bellator does have the Grand Prix, but that's not something that they use to really determine champions, so to speak. So I guess they're correct in that aspect. But I wanted to give you that tournament style rundown, and as well as the performance rating rundown. So I wanted to give you guys those 3 stellar fights too. So that's what we did. Let me know in the comments down below, or hit me up over on Instagram or Facebook to say, hey, saw your take. I didn't really see it this way. I saw it like this, and we can have a discussion. If you did see it like I did, we can have a discussion about the fights in and of themselves as well. I'm not opposed to that. If you guys, as always, if you guys have any cards that you see coming up that you don't hear me talking about on Instagram or Facebook, let me know. I'll take a look at them. Maybe I'll give you guys my take on them. Or maybe I'll just save that organization for a little bit later if I see some names coming up on there. Again, guys, follow me. Like, share, subscribe on here. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I'm posting there almost every day. So a lot of content coming for you guys, excuse me. And yeah, so hopefully I see you guys there, and hopefully you guys drop some comments down below, and we can have a good conversation about this. Until next time, hope you guys stay happy, healthy, and safe. Congratulations. You just went one more round with Rob. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you next time.